So this weekend's thought is the reasonable person principle. This is one of my most favorite philosophies of life. Now, I can't claim any personal credit for this. I learned it when I was a graduate student at Carnegie Mellon University. It was part of the, sort of embedded in the whole culture there. In fact, if you Google the reasonable person principle, it'll take you to CMU. So I'm just simply interpreting things that I was told, but it really resonated with me when I was a grad student, and as much as I can, I've tried to live by this. The basic idea is really simple. It's always behave reasonably and assume that other people are behaving reasonably. No matter how unreasonable that may seem, assume that they are actually behaving reasonably. I found this is a really wonderful way of dealing with potential conflict situations. So for example, if somebody does something and it seems to you that it's totally unreasonable, you don't get angry at them. You don't lash out at them. Instead, you must assume that they are actually being reasonable, and that there is, in fact, a reasonable explanation for the behavior, which you don't yet understand, no matter how impossible that may seem. You have to assume there must be something I just don't understand here. And so rather than attack the person, instead you ask questions, polite questions, not why are you being such a jerk kind of questions, but help me understand why it was you did this thing, did I get this right? And what is amazing is how many situations it turns out, in fact, there is a perfectly sensible explanation. There was just a miscommunication, not really true malice on their part. So here's an example that happened a few years ago to me in teaching. I was partway through teaching, it was actually CS 142, and one of the CAs came to me and said, John, I think we have a case of student cheating. And I said, oh? I said, yep, we have somebody, they turned in an assignment, but the assignment was last year's assignment. We had changed the assignment from year to year, and they turned in the project description from last year. And the CA said, this person must have cheated. They went to a friend who took the course last year and got their assignment. They didn't even bother to read the assignment. They just turned in their friend's assignment. So I said, well, that doesn't look good. But I followed the reasonable person principle. So I sent the student an email and asked them, could you come to my office, please? I'd like to talk about your assignment. And so the person came to my office, and when she came to my office and sat down, I said, you solved last year's Project 5, not this year's Project 5. Can you help me understand how that could have happened? And she said, I don't know. I just did what was on the web page and followed the instructions. And I said, well, where did you find this web page? She said, well, I just Googled CS 142 Project 5. So I turned around to my computer and Googled CS 142 Project 5. And guess what? Last year's assignment popped up. That had gotten really popular, I guess, the previous year, and somehow Google hadn't yet discovered that this year's one was more popular. And so she had solved that. So it's totally reasonable. But if you'd asked me ahead of time, what do you think are the 5 most likely outcomes when you talk to this person about that? That would not have been on my list. I would not have figured that out. And if I had accused her, then I would have really felt bad. It would have been very awkward, and I really don't want to accuse people of doing things they haven't done. So it worked really well. Anyhow, my experience is this works. You'd be amazed how well this works. In situations where you think, no, this person must be unreasonable, and actually, no, it's all actually pretty reasonable. Now, it works best when you have controlled environments like sororities or clubs or startups where people are generally goal-aligned and also reasonable. And by the way, the corollary of this is that if you find a person in one of these environments who really is unreasonable, occasionally that happens, then you have to get rid of them. That in order to preserve the fact that we are really reasonable people in this environment. But it works really well in those environments. Doesn't work so well in environments like political environments where people are overtly hostile to each other and actively trying to do bad things to each other. That doesn't work so well. But in so many environments, we have small groups of people actually trying to work together. It works really, really well. So try it sometime. Even when you're sure, you're going to think, oh, sure, it must be totally crazy. Can't possibly work in this situation. Try it. I bet you'll find in many cases it actually does. It does work. And this is just a corollary, I think, of a bigger idea, which is if you can see things from another person's point of view, it's amazing how much that can smooth your interactions with that person and eliminate things that would otherwise cause problems and sort of tensions. This is just one way of doing that. So try it sometime. The reasonable person principle. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you Monday.